It's time to reload, reload. Shoot off and unload. Let it rip by the caseload. I've got an obsession, and it has constant progression. Getting stronger and stronger with each passing day. The urge to collect these guns that protect, not just another object. Trinkets come and go, but high quality guns aren't just for show. They find a place in our lives and can help us survive. When I need to release some of my stress, a trip to the range is the best. But my feelings aren't repressed, I still feel obsessed. Collecting more and more of the best, from Glocks to the 2011s. I'm a collector, self-confessed. It's time to reload, reload. Shoot off and unload, let her rip by the caseload. If the expense of the gun wasn't enough, there's all the other stuff. The optics and ammo, the holsters and you know. The training and time, you can spend a lifetime working all the overtime just to pay for this obsessive hobby of mine. But my feelings aren't repressed, I still feel upset.
Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jim, and today I'd like to discuss with you another pistol optic. This is the Meprolight MPO Pro F. The Pro part of the name designates that it is a closed emitter optic. Apparently made for professionals like cops or military for duty use. Mepro Pistol Optics Enclosed Full Size is how that reads. They also make a Pro S, which is for micro compacts with slimmer slide profiles and smaller RMSC footprints. Now, for those of us old farts, we remember being introduced to the name Meprolight thanks to early Glocks. Meprolight was one of the two night sight manufacturers that Glock had contracted to make night sights for Glock to offer on their factory guns. So the time of year you bought your Glock back then determined which brand of night sights were installed on it, because they rotated on a cycle. I don't know what the exact cycle was. Let's say, for example, half the year they manufactured with Trijicon sights, and for the other half of the year they manufactured with Meprolight night sights. The next time I heard that name was on the legendary electronicless amber sight for rifles, which was the M21. Essentially, it was an aim-point electronic optic without the electronics. It used coils of insanely lengthy fiber optics inside of the sight, gathering light via window cuts in the optic body, and would illuminate an amber reticle onto the glass. In the dark, it used tritium to project that glow. And they've recently updated to a smaller, lighter, sleeker M22 model, which I very much want to put on my AR. And then honestly, I don't remember hearing much about them for, I don't know, a decade or more. Then came their cool but odd, low-profile FT bullseye sight, which I still want to try one day because I think it's a cool concept, but I don't know how challenging it is in real world use. Fast forward to now, and they make red dots, and I had no idea. I literally stumbled across them by accident and liked the clean, smooth design of the optic body, so I figured, hey, Meprolight has a reputation for quality, so why not try it? What have I got to lose? So let's go ahead and quickly show you what comes in the box. This is not the official unboxing because I have already done that, and you're going to experience my dismay. So the beginning part of this review is going to be kind of negative. Hopefully it changes to positive halfway through. I really, 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 really hope so. So anyway, There's your closed cell foam lid. There is a microfiber optic for wiping off the glass. In the large area will, of course, be your optic. I'll go ahead and show that first. I really like the design of this optic. It looks really, really good. It's very clean. You've got the side-mounted battery tray. I think it's a nice, clean, handsome optic. That's just your bonus chiclets. Here is going to be your mounting plate. We'll discuss that little bastard in a minute. And then they supply you with a battery that I can't quite get out very easily. And then inside of here, I think it was, there was a whole mess of screws. That's going to be the other issue. Let's discuss why I'm a little bit pissed off right now. And maybe it's my fault for not just choosing a simpler optic, because they do make a simpler optic. They make open emitter optics. But I really liked the look of this one, and I wanted this to go on a very particular gun that I feel this would complement the looks of. And that means I've got to have a weird-ass adapter. So what they have done is they're running a system that is very much like the Aimpoint Acro. But they have their own unique Acro type of mount. It's not the exact same. I can't take this and put this on an Acro mount. Doesn't work, doesn't fit. This is made for an RMR cut. So what they do is they give you this base plate to drop onto your RMR cut, and then you simply drop this on there, and then you make your adjustment there to tighten it down. Now, that should work out great if this was milled properly. Guess what? It wasn't. So I spent a good amount of time. Let me demonstrate that this is clear and safe. Trying to get this onto my Archon Type B Gen 2. I truly love this pistol. And to me, that is a very complementary look to the squared off design of the slide. That's why I went in that direction. The problem is this. So we look at where they're simulating the bosses here on the Archon slide, and they're supposed to drop into those notches. So fine, you get that lined up, you get the curvature lined up there, and you get it in place. It doesn't want to stay there. You really do have to hold it in place. And the holes don't really line up too well. They're off by just a little bit. So when you go to put the hardware in there, it moves this ever so slightly to where it wants to pop up a little bit. That's not a good thing, obviously. And these screws that were provided within the packaging are far too fat. They do not fit the holes that are in the Archon slide. Now, they can't project every gun manufacturer's slide cuts. They just don't know. There's no way for them to know. And that's why they always give you a multitude of screws. So I went through every screw in that packaging. Then I broke out the packaging for my dozen or so Holosuns. I broke open 2 or 3 others from, let's see, Gideon Optics, as well as Swampfox. All of my other optics, I went through all the screws in their packaging. None of them fit right. And I think it really is because of the uniqueness of this cut. Look at where the holes are located. They're on the very, very edge of the flat spot on this slide. So you don't have a lot of wiggle room here. And the head of the hardware seems to be where I'm hung up right now. I did find one set of screws that the diameter of the threads seemed to fit fine, and the length wasn't too long, because the way this gun is built, you have your channel here for the extractor, and then you have another channel in here, but it's really, really, really high up for the striker. Because of this crazy low bore axis that everybody talks about, the striker is not, down here toward the middle of the slide. It's up a little bit. You could probably see it. No, you really can't. I'm not going to tear the pistol apart just for that. So you can't use an 11 millimeter long screw. It's too long. You're going to get things jammed up with the striker. So the hardware that I had, I believe the heads were a little bit too large, and that interfered with the rail dropping easily into the slots. See how it's, well, I have it tightened down right now, but see how those dovetail in there? Yeah, so I believe the heads of the screws were just a little bit too big, preventing this from fitting on there. Because I even fully removed the lockdown, and there was no way to get that onto this plate. So this plate has screwed everything up. And I thought it was the plate that was going to make my life easier, because, hey, it was going to take this acro type of mount and adapt it very quickly and easily to an RMR. However, I should have realized this before. I went through the exact same thing, or close to the same thing, with my OA Defense 2311, and I put my Steiner MPS on there. With the Steiner and with Oracle Arms, at that point, when they were still Oracle Arms, because I bought the 2311 when it first came out, before all the hype surrounded it. And at that time, they did not have an acro mount. They do now. When you buy a 2311, you can get their acro mount from OA Defense. Fantastic. And Mike over at OA Defense was awesome enough to send me an acro mount, because he knew I had an acro type sight on there. And that was really wonderful. But initially I had to mount it with a C&H Precision adapter plate that went from RMR to acro. So basically doing the same thing as this. And it was really very, very difficult to make it fit. So this is probably the very last time I will ever buy anything that has a side profile mounting screw, like an acro style mounting system. I don't think I'm ever going to do it again. But let me tell you why I made the decision to purchase this, and why I liked it so much. Again, going back to the fact that we know Meprolight is seriously high quality. I liked the fact, the idea of the fact that this was going to be an RMR footprint. It's a closed design, so it shields against all the elements and your flaky deodorant that falls out of your armpits, inside of your shirt, down into your holster, into your gun. All the little schmutz and whatever makes its way into the backside of your objective lens, and it's kind of a pain in the butt to take your pinky and your t-shirt and get in there and try to clean those out, because you always end up with that ring of filth around the outer side. So I have really started to like enclosed optics. My EPS carry is one of my favorite optics. And that's what I thought about this. I'm like, this might be the EPS killer, because it costs even less than a Holosun, believe it or not. And if the quality is similar, yeah, why not do it? Well, much like the EPS, if you buy the MRS version, this has user-selectable reticles. So you can choose from a dot, or a circle dot, or just a circle. Any combination you want of those. You've got 10 settings, and also 2 night vision. Now, it's not 10 including the 2 night vision, which is how most companies do it. When they say, hey, we've got 10 settings, and 2 of them are night vision, what they mean is they have a total of 10 settings, leaving 8 for daytime, 2 for night vision. Here, you're getting 12 settings in total. You're getting 10 daytime brightnesses and 2 night vision settings. It uses a CR1632, which is a pretty common enough battery, very easy to get off of Amazon. I will warn you, always know what you're buying when you're ordering from Amazon, because If it's some cheap company, it's not going to last very long. So definitely get in the habit of changing your batteries once a year anyway, even though this has a 20,000 hour battery life stated on the middle setting, setting 5, which is actually a little bit higher than true middle. And you get automatic or manual brightness control. So you have your sensor up front here so that it can adjust the brightness automatically if you're a person that likes that. If you are not, you can simply turn that feature off and manually control it always. Fun fact, each individual optic is zeroed at the factory, recoil tested on a firearm, and then it's tested again to see if it held zero. Not batch testing, not where they take one sight out of a pallet of 1,000, but each individual unit gets tested. So your sight that you buy, that you put on your gun, was already rigorously tested prior to shipping. I dig that. Here's the other thing. The UI is really simple. To turn on, you press and hold the up button. Once it's on, you hold the up button, I think it's either 3 or 5 seconds, and you'll see it flash, and that's switching you from manual to auto brightness and back and forth. If you hold the down button, you get to select the dot, the circle, or the circle dot reticle. So once I saw it, I knew it had to have a home on my Archon. I just thought, yep, that's going to be perfect. That's going to look great. And if the quality is as good as I expect, then yes, I want one that looks good on here. Now, my Archon has been naked this whole time, and it didn't need an optic because it's got a really good fiber optic front sight that, of course, being fiber optic means it's going to break and fly out at some point. But it's really, really good. That's like a floating red dot right there. This thing is fantastic. Nice serrated blacked out rear. I love the way this gun sits naked. So it didn't need an optic, but I'm a sucker for a nicely made accessory that makes my life easier, so here we are. Except that it didn't make my life easier. It has given me a migraine from aggravation. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take all of these things down to my local gunsmith, who may actually have to turn custom hardware for me. And I'm not looking forward to that. I don't have the ability, I don't have a lathe, so I cannot make my own screws. I don't have screws that are close enough in dimension where I can just cut them and grind them down and make them fit. So I think we're going to have to relieve a little bit off the front here so that the holes will line up better with the threaded holes here, and that the hardware is small enough that the head is still large enough to do its job by pulling the plate down and holding it in place, but not being in the way of these rails. That's why I'm thinking maybe I've got to have custom hardware cut. We'll find out. We're going to take a little bit of a break here, and when I come back, we're going to see if I succeeded or if I had to simply return this to the retailer and try something else. And then, of course, we're going to go to the range, we're going to test it out and see how it runs. So for now, we're done. But I promise you, I'll be back in the blink of an eye. And through the magic of editing, we are back and complete. Again, want to make sure I show that we are clear and safe. I got to tell you, I really like how this is set up now that it's on there. And it was a little bit of a pain in the ass. Basically, the adapter plate was not fitting correctly. We had to take off maybe 1 or 2 thou off the front of it to get it to go in there so that the holes would all line up properly. And once that was done, it really wasn't that big of a deal after that. And I got to say, totally worth it. Everything looks great. do want to kind of show you again, as I mentioned the UI earlier. So if I were to hold down the up arrow, then I would be able to switch back and forth between automatic and manual. So there is the automatic. I don't want the automatic. Go back to manual. Okay. So if I want to make it brighter, I can. By the way, it does get nice and bright. It gets blooming bright. It will flash when you get to the very top, so that you know you're at maximum. Now, if I hold down the down button, it will switch between the different modes. There we go. There is that simple dot only? It's kind of hard to tell looking through the camera lens. Yes, that is dot only. Clicking up one more, and that is circle dot. One of these should just be circle only. That's this one. That's circle only. And again, it's impossible for you to see that, unfortunately, just because of the focal length of the camera lens. But that is it. So now we've got it on there successfully. Now it's time to get to the range, get it zeroed, and test it out to make sure it's going to be a winner. Well, now back from the range, it's easy to say that I really do like this optic. It works every bit as good as anything I've ever bought for more money, and it was fast and easy to zero. It also doesn't seem to have any problems holding that zero either. Now, the thing is, I have wanted an Acro P2 for a while, and I've only hesitated because of the super small window and the very thick bezel going around that super small window. It just seems like it would be too distracting for me. And that's not even close to being an issue here. It feels roomy and spacious, if you want to put it that way, to the point where you don't even realize how open and spacious it is while you're shooting, which is exactly what you want. It should be effortless. You shouldn't be distracted by thinking about anything about the sight. You should just be thinking about your target, and then that dot comes into view over the target, and that's it. You shouldn't be focused on anything else. So this does exactly what I want it to do. But I do have one gripe, though, and I do want to show you that this is clear and safe. It's the dot. While the outer circle is crisp and defined, and again, I realize that you cannot see that with the view from my camera here, and I apologize for that. The circle is totally fine. It's clear, it's crisp, no problems whatsoever. It's the dot in the center that isn't. It doesn't play well with my astigmatism. Now, it's not a streak or a comet or anything like that. What it looks like is it looks like a dot with these two spikes coming off of it, like two tentacles, sort of. And the thing is, if I switch reticles to just the dot is totally normal. If I switch it to just circle, the circle is totally normal. But if I use it with the circle around the dot together illuminated at the same time, that dot turns into that weird spiky creature thing. It's really strange. And I have no idea why it would do that. So for quick target acquisition and shooting at a defensive distance, that doesn't matter at all. But I wouldn't want to make a precision shot out at any sort of distance. I could tell that easily. But since this is a carry gun and not a target pistol, I'm totally okay with that. It does make me wonder, however, if I'm going to shy away from Meprolight in the future or if I'll buy more. Because I tell you right now, as soon as I opened the box on this, before my frustrations with mounting it, I loved the aesthetics of it. I loved the build quality. I love the glass clarity, and I love the solidity that the body seems to feel like it has. So there's way more pros than cons. So I was looking forward to buying other Meprolight dots. They have a couple of really cool open emitter versions that are not too dissimilar from the Holosun 507Cs, 407Cs in that ilk. So I had planned on putting a few Meprolights on a few different guns because I think they're that nice. But is that weird streaky dot thing going to be something that keeps me away from it? I don't know. Because if I choose a version that's dot only, I may not have any astigmatism issues. Because again, if I switch this to just dot only, that issue goes away for me too. But the fact that everything else works great, there's no artifacts in the lenses, there's no crazy odd reflections when light's behind me, I'm not seeing red halos reflecting inside of there or anything. Like, it doesn't do anything weird. It performs exactly like you would expect if you were spending $400, $500, $600. And for an optic that doesn't cost anywhere near that, I think that's a great thing. Now, the main competitor in this size for an enclosed emitter sight is really the Holosun 509T. And Holosun has always worked well with my eyes with no issue. As a matter of fact, everything out here on the table does. Both of these, the ACSS Vulcan reticle in the 507C, the 407C. I have the Swampfox. I think this is the Sentinel 2, if I'm not mistaken. And that one works fine with my eyes. And by the way, that's a Shalotech build that I just completed. I upgraded my P365 up into this with the Parker Mountain Machine barrel and comp, and it is, let's just say, it's truly amazing. I will be doing a video on that soon. And then my P365 XL Spectre comp here, I've got the EPS carry, and I have enjoyed the EPS carries a lot. Now, I don't have a regular EPS, so I'm going to assume that the EPS is going to be close to the size of the Meprolight here. Not entirely too certain, but I do know this is pretty close to the 509T size. But this is so much less money than all of those. So again, if it's for a carry gun where I don't need that super precise distance shot, like I'm shooting a target pistol, then it's probably going to be just fine. But for me, honestly, I'm most excited about the upcoming Gideon Optics enclosed emitter that they started teasing recently. Because now that I've put a Gideon on my Canik rival, I'm in love with that sight. It's a fantastic sight, especially for the low price that it is. So yeah, there's getting to be a lot of choices in the enclosed emitter space, isn't there? Now, the MPO Pro F isn't perfect, but it's really, really close. Definitely good enough for me to justify my purchase, and most likely good enough for me to try another optic maybe in their standard open emitter. So, all in all, extremely frustrating in the beginning, but again, that's not a terribly uncommon thing. You're going to hear that from a lot of people that have an acro-type mount for the footprint of their optic. Adapter plates, this is why we don't like adapter plates, because they're unpredictable. If they're not machined perfectly, they don't fit the sight just right. And in this case, the company that makes the sight is making the plate, so of course that matched just fine, but it won't match up to the slide because they don't make the Archon, man. The Archon could be milled just slightly differently. One little thing is out of spec, and then the whole thing gets messed up. So I really don't lay that blame on Meprolight at all. But it will tempt me in the future to steer clear of this type of mount in the future. I'm going to stick with what I know, what I've had great luck with, which are RMR and RMSC standard footprints. I think that's probably going to work out best for me and my own sanity. So learn at my expense. Anyway, that's going to do me for this. I have now taken one of my absolute favorite guns to shoot and made it even more fun to shoot. So I'm very excited about that. So I hope that you guys got to learn a little bit throughout all of this. And I'll come back and let you know on the long term how this thing is holding up as I continue to review other optics and other guns in the future. I'll try to remember to circle back and let you know how that thing's doing. And with that, I'm out of here, and I'll see you on the next video.